Let me start by saying that it's very difficult nowadays to find a company that is not focused on being agile. Anywhere you look, everybody's switching to agile, and this seems to be the way to work. And probably it's very unlikely that you will meet a company that says, no, no, we don't like agile, we go the old pedestrian choo choo train way. So that's, sounds good, sounds very promising. But then when you get engaged, or if you get hired, or if you join the project, then if you look a bit closer, you realize that actually there's very little agility there. So it's mostly in the name. And then, makes you wonder why and makes you being perplexed. Why is it that everybody's so eager and talking about agile, but then when you look at how they're approaching things, it's not agile? So, that's something worth examining. So, in my case, when I look at what would be the definition of agile, all signs point to one definition, which is embracing change. So, uh, you know, being agile means, okay, here's a change, I'm going to embrace it, right? If I am not embracing the change, then I'm kind of sluggish. I'm not being agile. I'm pedestrian, flat-footed, and dragging my feet, etc. And so, I don't think that's a good enough definition, because people tend to, in my experience, people tend to pick and choose which change they embrace and which change they don't. And I think agile is not about picking and choosing. So to give you an example, suppose I work somewhere and they introduce a change whereby they double my compensation package. So everybody says change is stressful. But would that be stressful? No, I would embrace it. I would never go like, no, 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 look, wait. No, I don't like that change. But if they call me and say, look, we're going to reduce your salary because the economy, blah, 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 I would not embrace that change that eagerly, right? So to me, to be really agile and to kind of uh, accept that and live that is to embrace change no matter what. So change can be good for you or desirable, change could be undesirable, but if you're agile, then there's no picking and choosing. So sometimes people say, okay, well, that really doesn't make much sense, because why would I embrace undesirable change? That sounds crazy, that sounds illogical. But change is something that happens mostly without our will. Nobody asks us, is it okay now to change? So, if we are running a business or whatever we are doing, every day when we wake up, we may realize that something has changed. Something is not the same as yesterday. And again, we may or may not like that change, but if we ignore it, we're basically rejecting it. We're pretending it didn't happen, and that is a treacherous path to walk. Because if this change is going to be hazardous to us or imply some damage, then ignoring it is not going to end up well. We need to embrace it, face it, right? Embrace it, deal with it. And this is agile. Agile means we're open to detecting change as soon as it happens and then taking appropriate course of action to deal with it. Sometimes it means we pivot, sometimes it means we can still stay the course, but we need to do a little bit of adjustment. And sometimes it means we just need to cut our losses and just drop everything and, you know, try something else. So that's the way the world works. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And being agile means being realistic, being open and attentive, and intent on following the nature's path, the way the world works, because we have very little control over it. We can wish for certain things to happen this way or that way, but wishful thinking hardly ever works. We can pray and wish and believe in superstition and have our magic spells and do the magic dance, whatever else, go see a shaman or something, go see a priest. It's not going to really work. I mean, it may work once in a blue moon, but it's mostly coincidence. We don't have the magic spell to cast and turn everything into our advantage. And so Agile, if you join Agile organization, then that organization should be open to detecting and responding to any early signs, early changes. If the organization is stuck in their own old ways and pretending the change didn't happen, that's not going to end up well, right? So basically, how do you recognize an organization that is not agile? To me, a telltale sign of a non-agile organization is working in a large, work at large, like large work or large batches. For example, you join an organization and you realize that they're spending days, weeks, months creating the what's called the big upfront plan, the big roadmap, and that's going to take them into 5 years into the future. That's not agile, because that's daydreaming, because nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone in 5 days or 5 years course. Another big telltale sign that the organization is not agile is if there's a lot of upfront work devoted to big upfront design. So everything has to be designed to the last detail. Everything they're expecting teams to produce blueprints, and only once the blueprints have been produced and hardened do they pass on to the crew they're going to implement it. So be it in construction, be it in software, don't start work until we have all the blueprints sorted out. That is not agile. That is not. Why? Because when you have such a precious big plan and precious big upfront design, and then you start working on it, and a few days or few weeks or few months later the change happens, and all of a sudden that change invalidates a lot of things in your design, in your plan. Well, now you've invested a lot. You spent a lot of money. You're in a hole for a lot of money. You are reluctant to scrap that and start from scratch. You're like, oh, holy wait, we spent so much time. We consulted all these experts. I don't believe our plan is invalid. I don't believe this design is not good enough. But in reality, maybe it is. And so I'm noticing that people get attached to their, precious plan, precious design, and then they don't let go. And then they don't know when to cut their losses, meaning they're not agile. So pay attention. Good agile organizations are mostly, growing their business step by step, not being arrogantly having a big vision and upfront plan, because that's kind of naive, right? In today's climate, business climate and economy, etc., things change daily, and it's very hard to predict. Oh yeah, we know next year this time is going to be like this. Nobody knows. Impossible to know. It's been validated many times. No plan survives first contact with reality. No design survives first contact with reality of making code. So, we are learning as we go. We are experimenting. We are hypothesizing, and then validating or invalidating our hypothesis. That's the scientific approach to doing things, and that's the best way. That's the most realistic way. So when it comes to Agile, embracing change means embracing both desirable and undesirable change. If somebody is only picking and choosing and embracing change that is desirable to them, I would argue they're not agile. And with that in mind, I'm going to leave you with this final thought, which is pay attention the size of the work. If it's always bloated, if it's always big, that's not agile. Agile teams work on very small items one at a time, knocking it off and keep moving. Okay, enough for today. We'll talk later. Bye.